Northeast Live. Very warm welcome to all our viewers. You're watching Top at Noon. I'm Ronak, and we start the bulletin with a big news at this hour. A Shiv Sena worker has been arrested outside the hotel Radisson Blu in Guwahati. That's right, viewers. Bhosle is in Guwahati and is from the pro-Uddhav Thackeray camp. Bhosle, who is being described as an emissary sent by Uddhav Thackeray, was arrested by police outside Hotel Radisson Blu, where the rebel MLAs are currently camping out. Bhosle was standing with a placard outside the hotel, calling out the rebels to reconcile with Uddhav Thackeray when he was arrested by Guwahati police. Sanjay Bhosle has come all the way from Maharashtra to Guwahati and was standing outside Hotel Radisson Blu holding a placard and appealing to the rebel Sena MLAs to return and reconciliate with the Uddhav Thackeray camp. All right, let's listen in now to what the police had to say about Sanjay Bhosle's arrest.
अभी तो पता नहीं चला, कोई लोग कौन बता दिया पता नहीं है, लेकिन उनको अभी थाना में हम लोग भेज दिए हैं। वहाँ प्यार से बातचीत होगा, कहाँ से आया था, क्यों आया था, किस लिए आया था, तो पता चलेगा।
किस वजह से उनको डिटेन किया गया है?
अरे वो कुछ बात दे रहा है, कुछ पेपर लेके आया था, वो अभी तो ये होगा। कोई आदमी को एक बार पूछताछ करने के लिए तो थाना में लेना पड़ेगा तो भाई।
वो तो कोई इलीगल एक्टिविटीज में कोई।
अरे सुनिए, यहाँ आप तो जानते हैं ये कितना सेंसिटिव एरिया है। आप लोग दूर दूर से आया है, सारा इंडिया से आया है, क्यों आया है? तो ये एरिया तो काफी सेंसिटिव है ना। आप लोग का सिक्योरिटी है, लोगों का सिक्योरिटी है, सब लोग के लिए पुलिस ये फोर्स इधर में दिया गया है। तो दैट इज व्हाई हम लोग कोई आदमी लोग कोई थोड़ा सा इधर उधर जो कार्रवाई होता है देखते हैं, सस्पेक्ट होता है, इसीलिए उसको हम लोग अरे रिटर्न किया है। कौन अरेस्ट किया है? अरे भाई थाना में लेके जाके उनको पूछना पड़ेगा ना भाई, आप कहाँ से आए हैं, क्यों आए हैं।
लेकिन उनका कहना है कि वो शिव सैनिक है और वो सातारा
वो तो उनका कहना है। अरे आ भी सकते हैं, कौन मना कर सकते हैं इंडिया में? आपको कोई असम में आने के लिए अरे मना किए थे क्या? नहीं किए तो क्या बात है कि ये तो जो आदमी आया है उनको पकड़ा गया, उसको थाना में हम लोग लेके गया, पानी उन्हें पिला के प्यार से पूछेंगे आप लोग क्यों आए हैं, क्या बात था, क्या नहीं था। उसके बाद जो कार्रवाई होना है एज पर लॉ दैट विल बी डन।
And meanwhile, our Chief of Bureau, Arindam Das, caught up with Sanjay Bhosle a short while before he was arrested. Let's take a look at this exclusive conversation with Sanjay Bhosle just moments before his arrest. Take a look.
आज सुबह होटल रेडिसन ब्लू के बाहर एक अलग ही नज़ारा देखने को मिल रहा है। एक शिव सैनिक आए हैं सतारा जिले से, यहाँ से करीबन 3000 किलोमीटर दूर से आए हैं। पहले आप अपना परिचय दीजिए और यहाँ पे क्यों आए हैं हमको बताइए।
मैं सातारा जिला से आया हूँ। सातारा जिला का मैं शिवसेना का उप जिला प्रमुख हूँ। एकनाथ शिंदे साहब जो यहाँ ठहरे हैं वो सातारा जिला के सुपुत्र है और मैं उसी जिले का सुपुत्र हूँ। मैं यहाँ सिर्फ ये बताने आया हूँ, उनको ये कहने आया हूँ कि आप वापस चलो। माननीय शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे के जो अंतिम शब्द थे कि मेरे उद्धव और आदित्य को साथ दो, तो वो शब्द स्मरण करके आप वापस आओ।
तो आपको क्या लगता है क्या हो रहा है
अंदर क्या हो रहा है? सत्ता का सारीपाट चल रहा है, मेरे को कुछ मालूम नहीं है। मैं सत्ता के लिए कुछ बोलने वाला नहीं हूँ। मैं सिर्फ कहने आया हूँ कि वो कट्टर शिव सैनिक है, मैं कट्टर शिव सैनिक हूँ। वो बाला साहब ठाकरे के भक्त है, माननीय दिगे साहब के भक्त है। मैं भी बाला साहब ठाकरे और माननीय दिगे साहब का भक्त हूँ। उनको शिव सैनिकों ने अपना पसीना बहाकर बहुत बड़ा किया है। हमारे शिव सैनिकों की ताकत पर वो बड़े हुए हैं। वो शिव सैनिकों के साथ रहे, यही मेरी आखिरी ख्वाहिश है।
तो आपका नाम बताइए और आप अकेले आए हैं?
देखिए, आसाम महाराष्ट्र से बहुत दूर है और शिव सैनिक बहुत गरीब रहता है। शिव सैनिक का जो एकनाथ शिंदे यहाँ आए, जो जितने भी यहाँ एमएलए, वो पूरे गरीबी से यहाँ एमएलए बने। इनके पास भी कुछ नहीं था, लेकिन बाला साहब ठाकरे की ताकत, आशीर्वाद, दिगे साहब के ताकत, आशीर्वाद से ये बने हैं। ऐसे ही ये हमारे जैसे ही पहले थे। मैं इतना ही कहने आया हूँ, आपको हम ताकत दे रहे, आप शिवसेना में चलो।
एकनाथ शिंदे तो बोल रहे हैं कि उनको ये स्टेप इसलिए लेना पड़ा क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं शिवसेना के जो प्रमुख है उद्धव ठाकरे, वो अपने आइडियोलॉजी से भटक गए, जो हिंदुत्व के आइडियोलॉजी है, क्योंकि वो एनसीपी और कांग्रेस के साथ हो गए हैं, जो हिंदुत्व को नहीं प्रमोट करते।
पूरे देश को मालूम है हिंदू हृदय सम्राट शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे का हिंदुत्व। जब बाबरी का ढांचा गिरा था तब भी शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे ने कहा था, जो अगर ये मेरे शिव सैनिकों ने गिराया होगा तो वो मुझे उनसे गर्व है। तभी हम जैसे शिव सैनिक, एकनाथ भाई जैसे शिव सैनिक ही अयोध्या गए थे और जाकर वहां ढांचा गिराया था। और उनका बेटा उद्धव ठाकरे, शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे का बेटा उद्धव ठाकरे इतना बाला साहब ठाकरे की प्रताड़ना कर नहीं सकता, सबको मालूम है। लेकिन सत्ता की सारी पार्ट में ये चल रहा है, सत्ता के सारी पार्ट में बहकाकर इनको यहाँ लाया गया है और एक गलत शब्द बयान कर रहे हैं। मैं इतना ही कहने वाला हूँ, ये कुछ भी हो, आप कोई बनो, कोई मुख्यमंत्री बनो, कुछ बनो, लेकिन आप मातोश्री चलो। बाला साहब ठाकरे के अंतिम शब्द थे कि मेरे उद्धव आदित्य को साथ दो, आप उद्धव आदित्य को साथ दो।
तो आपको क्या लगता है, आपको अंदर जाने देंगे? आपको ये जो आप मैसेज लेके आए हैं उनके पास पहुंचने देंगे? और कोई शिव सैनिक और आ रहे हैं क्या यहाँ पे?
देखिए, मैं छोटा शिव सैनिक हूँ, लेकिन मैं शिवसेना के विचार उनके पास लाया हूँ, इतनी दूर आया हूँ, शिव सैनिक की ताकत से, उनके खर्चे से आया हूँ। मेरा इतना ही कहना है, मुझे अंदर जाने दे ना जाने दे। आपके मीडिया के माध्यम से तो उनको समझ गया है कि मेरे को क्या बोलने का है। मैंने बाला साहब ठाकरे के शब्द को यहाँ दोहराया है, वो दोहराया है, वो स्मरण करे और वापस चले।
एकनाथ शिंदे तो अभी दावे कर रहे हैं कि शिवसेना तो अब उनके पार्टी है, क्योंकि उनके पास ज्यादा शिव सैनिक है।
देखिए, सत्ता में किसके पास एमएलए है, किसके पास नहीं है, इसका मेरे को कुछ लेना देना नहीं, वो वापस आए।
और भी आएंगे शिव सैनिक?
आएंगे आएंगे। अभी ऐसा चला तो शिव सैनिक कहा भी जा सकते हैं।
कितने आएंगे?
उसकी उसकी संख्या नहीं बता सकते, लेकिन शिव सैनिक कहा भी घुस सकते, कहा भी जा सकते।
तो अभी आप क्या करेंगे यहाँ पे?
मैं तो यहाँ रुकने वाला हूँ, जब तक यहाँ का जो सोच और मालूम नहीं होता तब तक मैं यहाँ रुकने वाला हूँ।
तो ये थे संजय भोसले, उप जिला सभापति सतारा जिले से शिवसेना के, जो यहाँ पे होटल रेडिसन ब्लू के बाहर खड़े हैं और ये एक ही मैसेज लेके आए हैं कि एकनाथ शिंदे और उनके साथ जो भी बागी एमएलए है उनके साथ महाराष्ट्र वापस जाए और उद्धव ठाकरे से बातचीत करे।
And on to another big related story. As the political crisis in Maharashtra continues to grow, trouble continues to mount for the Aghadi government as more MLAs are set to join the Eknath Shinde camp in Guwahati. Last night, 3 more Shiv Sena MLAs and 2 more independent MLAs reached Guwahati and joined the Shinde camp in Hotel Radisson Blu. With this, the strength in the rebel MLA camp has now reached a total of 54 MLAs, consisting of the MLAs of Shiv Sena and the independents. Currently, the rebel camp in Radisson Blu consists of 45 Shiv Sena MLAs, 9 independents, and a few MLAs from other political parties as well. Currently, Shiv Sena's pro-Uddhav Thackeray camp are left with just 10 MLAs. The situation is such now that the Uddhav Thackeray-led Aghadi government in Maharashtra may topple any moment as the strength in the rebel camp has reached a clear majority mark. Noteworthy here is that the Maharashtra Assembly consists of 288 seats, of which 285 are occupied. Any political front needs a strength of 143 to attain the majority mark. And currently, the BJP strength in the Maharashtra Assembly is 106. And if we take the Maharashtra BJP MLAs along with the MLAs at the rebel camp here in Guwahati, then their strength goes up to a total of 167. And if we come to the pro-Uddhav Thackeray camp in the Aghadi government, then it currently consists of just 10 Shiv Sena MLAs, 53 NCP MLAs, and 44 Congress MLAs. Meanwhile, the Shiv Sena has issued a whip to all the party MLAs who have been skipping meetings in the midst of the political crisis. And meanwhile, a crucial meeting of the Shiv Sena district heads in Maharashtra has been called under the aegis of Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray. And ahead of the meeting, Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut has said that veiled threats are being made against NCP chief Sharad Pawar. Raut targeted Union Home Minister Amit Shah, saying that one of the union ministers is making comments on the Maharashtra situation and Sharad Pawar. The Shiv Sena said that while they are low on numbers, they will now carry forward the fight in the legal way. He also said that a process of action against the rebel MLAs has also begun.
जैसे वो कह रहे हैं कि संख्या बल हमारे पास ज्यादा है।
देखिए संख्या बल ज्यादा हो सकता है कागज पे, अब ये लड़ाई जो है ये कानूनी लड़ाई हो जाएगी, लेजिस्लेटिव लड़ाई हो जाएगी। हमारे लोगों ने 12 विधायक जो है जिसने बगावत की भाषा की है उनके खिलाफ एक्शन लेने की शुरुआत की है। उनको डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन के लिए हमारे लोग सभापति महोदय के पास गए हैं, ये एक्शन चल रही है। अब ये आखिर तक सरकार कब बनेगी ये लोगों की जो बोल रहे हैं मुझे मालूम नहीं, बनेगी भी या नहीं बनेगी उस बारे में कोई बोल नहीं सकता है। धमकियां देने का काम चल रहा है माननीय पवार साहब को, अगर ये सरकार को बचाए गए तो देख लेंगे, ये केंद्रीय मंत्री बोल रहा है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी सुन लीजिए, अमित शाह जी सुन लीजिए, आपका एक मंत्री महाराष्ट्र में शरद पवार साहब को धमकी दे रहा है। ये धमकी ऐसी है कि आपको घर नहीं जाने देगी। क्या इस प्रकार के धमकियों को आपका समर्थन है, ये महाराष्ट्र जानना चाहता है।
On to another big story now. NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu, who arrived in the national capital from Bhubaneswar, will file her nomination papers today in the presence of top BJP leaders. Her nomination papers are being prepared at the Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi's residence, sources said. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, senior ministers Rajnath Singh and Amit Shah, and BJP National President JP Nadda will be among her proposers. Union ministers and senior BJP leaders are signing on as proposers and seconders at Joshi's residence. Several Delhi BJP leaders, including State President Adesh Gupta, party MPs Manoj Tiwari and Ramesh Bidhuri, leader of opposition in the Delhi Assembly, welcomed Murmu at the airport. Murmu, who is staying put at the Orissa Bhavan in New Delhi, is likely to call on Prime Minister Modi today. And to make the nomination filing a grand event, the BJP has invited its allies as well as the Biju Janata Dal, which has announced its support for Draupadi Murmu to attend the nomination filing today. Meanwhile, and dubbed her vision for India's development as extraordinary. The Prime Minister made the remarks after he met Murmu in New Delhi yesterday. And after Prime Minister Modi, Union Home Minister Amit Shah also met the NDA presidential candidate. Meanwhile, Draupadi Murmu has reached the Parliament House where she would be filing her nomination papers. Leaders of BJP and other allied NDA partners would be present when Draupadi Murmu files her nomination later today. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma is also in New Delhi and would be present during the filing of the nomination papers.
ভাৰতৰ ৰাষ্ট্ৰপতি পদৰ প্ৰাৰ্থী হিচাপে NDA শ্ৰীমতী দ্ৰৌপদী মুৰ্মুক আগবঢ়াইছে। প্ৰধানমন্ত্ৰী ডাঙৰীয়াৰ মাৰ্গদৰ্শনত সকলোৱে দ্ৰৌপদী মুৰ্মু ডাঙৰীয়ানীৰ বিজয়ৰ বাবে আগ্ৰহ কৰিছে। 10:30 বজাত তেখেতৰ মনোনয়ন পত্ৰ আমি সকলোৱে লগ হৈ দাখিল কৰিম।
And the Union Ayush Minister and former Assam Chief Minister Sarvananda Sonowal is also set to accompany Draupadi Murmu when she files her nomination papers today.
पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड के सदस्यों को विशेष रूप से धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। उन्होंने एक ट्राइबल महिला को देश के राष्ट्रपति पद के लिए चुना है, तो इतना बड़ा उन्होंने सम्मान देश के ट्राइबल लोगों को दिया है, इससे बड़ा क्या हो सकता है। इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि सारे देश की जनता आज इस विषय पर बहुत खुश है। सभी जितना भी हमारे लोग हैं सब बड़े आनंदित होके समर्थन करेंगे, कर रहा है, करेंगे, निश्चित है।
On to another big national focus now, viewers. The Supreme Court today dismissed a petition filed by deceased Congress leader Ehsan Jaffrey's widow, Zakia Jaffrey, that questioned the clean chit given by the Special Investigation Team to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and 63 others for their alleged role in the 2002 Gujarat riots violence. Ehsan Jaffrey was killed during the violence at Gulbarg Society in Ahmedabad on the 28th of February 2002. The apex court had reserved its order on a petition filed by Zakia Jafri against the Gujarat High Court's order, rejecting her plea against the SIT decision, giving a clean chit to Prime Minister Modi, who was the Gujarat Chief Minister back in 2002, as well as 63 others in December last year. Senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi, who appeared for the SIT, told the bench that the Supreme Court should endorse the trial court and the Gujarat High Court's decision on Jafri's plea. Otherwise, it would result in an endless exercise that could go on because of some motives of social activist Teesta Setalvad, who is petitioner number 2 in the petition. Kapil Sibal, who appeared for Zakia Jafri, told the top court that the SIT did not conduct an investigation. Rather, a collaborative exercise was carried out and its probe was fraught with omissions to protect conspirators. He also said that officials of the SIT as well as police were handsomely rewarded. The court-appointed Special Investigation Team, or SIT, had submitted its closure report in February of 2012, a decade after the riots, and exonerated Prime Minister Modi and 63 others, citing no prosecutable evidence. Shifting focus now, India reported 17,336 fresh coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours, the highest daily figure reported since the 20th of February, as the country is witnessing an upward tick in infections amidst fears of a new wave. Now, with this surge, the total number of COVID cases in the country has climbed to 4,33,62,294. According to Union Health Ministry data, the number of active cases increased to 88,284 in the country. India also reported 13 fresh COVID-19 casualties during the same time period, bringing the total number of fatalities to 5,24,954. The active cases comprise 0.19% of total infections. The national COVID recovery rate was recorded at 98.60% as per the Union Health Ministry. Active cases have increased by 4,294 in a span of 24 hours. The daily positivity rate was recorded at 3.94%, and the weekly positivity rate stood at 2.90%. And back to the region now, a tragic road accident has claimed the lives of 2 soldiers at Zuluk in East Sikkim. As per reports, the mishap took place at Ganikdara in Zuluk near Nathula in East Sikkim when an army vehicle met with an accident that left 2 soldiers dead. Of the 2 deceased, one is reportedly a Sikkim scout, while the other belongs to the Gorkha regiment. The deceased Sikkim scout personnel has been identified as Manoj Chetri, a resident of Karongthang, Yangan in South Sikkim. He was serving for Sikkim Scout Battalion and was currently posted at Kupup in East Sikkim. Meanwhile, investigation is underway and more details are currently awaited. Shifting focus to another big story from the region, Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma is in New Delhi for a series of crucial meetings with the central leadership pertaining to several key issues regarding the flood situation in Assam. Chances are high that Chief Minister Sharma will be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well as Union Home Minister Amit Shah to deliberate on the situation arising out of the deluge, which has affected almost all the districts of the state. And this indeed can be seen as a big development since Chief Minister Sharma is on a mission mode to deal with the flood crisis. It needs to be mentioned that Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma rushed to Delhi yesterday evening immediately after reviewing the flood situation in Silchar. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma also rubbished allegations leveled by the opposition Congress as far as the government's efforts to control the flood situation is concerned. And well, the flood scenario in Assam has witnessed only a slight improvement. While the number of affected districts has come down to 30. Districts like Darang, Nogao, and Morigao and Barak Valley districts continue to face the onslaught of heavy floods. And the flood scenario continues to remain grim in various parts of Assam. The situation in Kanpur continues to be grim even though floods have receded in some places. Several small towns and scores of villages continue to be submerged under floodwaters. Houses continue to be submerged, forcing people to take refuge on higher ground. Most of the houses and buildings continue to be flooded, with people incurring huge losses in terms of properties.
আপোনাৰ যোৱা মাহতটো আমাৰ সকলো তছনছ কৰি গৈছে পানীয়ে তাৰপিছত অকমান হুকাইছিলে মানুহবিলাকে ঠিক ঠাক কৰি বেলে ঘৰলৈ আহিম বুলি সকলোৱে ভাবিছিলে এতিয়া দ্বিতীয়টো মানে একে সৰ্বোচ্চ মানে সব চেছ কৰি থৈ গৈছে ৰাইজৰ মানে এবাৰ আৰু মানে মূৰ তুলি যে কিবা এটা কৰিব পাৰিব আশা নাই তাকে চিন্তা ভাৱনা কৰি আছো কি কৰিব পাৰো এতিয়া আহিছিলো অকমান চাও বুলি তলাই খুলিব নোৱাৰে ঘৰত কি কৰিব যোৱা পানীতটো একো নহল বাৰু আপোনাৰ কমছে ভালটো বাচিছিলে এবাৰটো ভালো তিতিলে আছিলে 70-80 মুন মান ধান সব
And meanwhile, the situation also remains grim in Roha as well. Several houses in the town area and its surroundings continue to be inundated by floodwaters. While rains have come down over the past few days, floodwaters are still to recede from several places. Several important offices and buildings, including the Roha College, are submerged underwater, making life difficult for the people and hitting the local administrative system hard. The NH37 nearby is also heavily flooded, hitting communication in the entire area.
সম্পূৰ্ণৰূপে প্লাবিত ইতিমধ্যে আমাৰ ৰহা মহাবিদ্যালয় যেটো যোৱা পথ এটো সম্পূৰ্ণৰূপে মানুহ বুৰ যাব আৰু ভিতৰত আমাৰ ক্লাছৰুমত এককাল পানী আৰু ইতিমধ্যে গুৱাহাটী বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় অহা 29 তাৰিখৰ পৰা ষষ্ঠ ষান্মাসিকৰ চূড়ান্ত পৰীক্ষাও পাতিছে গতিকে আমাৰ ৰহাৰ যিখিনি নিকটৱৰ্তী ছাত্ৰ-ছাত্ৰী আছে সেইখিনি ছাত্ৰ-ছাত্ৰী এতিয়া আশ্ৰয় শিবিৰত আছে কেনেকৈ পৰীক্ষা দিব ইতিমধ্যে অলপ কিছু সময় আগতে মই কণ্ট্ৰলাৰ এক্সামছ কণ্ট্ৰলাৰ এক্সামছ জনাইছোঁ গতিকে ৰহা মহাবিদ্যালয়ৰ অৱস্থা একেবাৰে শোচনীয় প্ৰায় 20-30 লাখ টকাৰ সম্পত্তি হৈ গৈছে কম্পিউটাৰ মটৰ ডিজি সেট বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ ক্লাছৰুমৰ সামগ্ৰী আমাৰ সকলো সামগ্ৰী নষ্ট হৈ গৈছে
On the other hand, Darang district also continues to be affected by floodwaters. Several villages and areas continue to be inundated by the floods, forcing people to move to higher grounds. Most of the people have been forced to make makeshift shelters on the side of the highways and other roads where they are facing a shortage of basic amenities.
সব পানির তলত আছে থাকা বিছিনা চিছিনা পানি কানি কাপড় একো সব পানির তলত আছে খেতি মাটি ধান অলপমান আছিল এবস্তামান সেইকেইটা লগাইছে ঘৰৰ এসীমামান পানী ভিতৰত চোতালত নথওয়ে
অৱস্থা বেয়া ছাৰ আমি চাপ চামন পোৱা নাই কানি কাপোৰ পোৱা নাই সব বাকচ তলত আছে ছাৰ আৰু আনিব পৰা নাই ঘৰৰ পৰা কানি কাপোৰ আনিব পৰা নাই আমি পিন্ধিব এতিয়া আমাৰ অভাৱ হৈ গৈছে
And as Silchar city in Assam remains inundated, Mizoram police on Thursday carried out rescue operations in the flood-inundated city and rescued 33 Mizos stranded in different areas of Silchar town. The police rescue team, consisting of 29 members, coordinated with members of Young Mizo Association Silchar unit and managed to rescue 33 people stranded at different locations in the town. Police officials informed that out of the 33 people rescued, 16 wished to be brought back home to Mizoram, prompting the state government to make arrangements for their conveyance to the state from Silchar. Two engine boats along with life jackets were brought to Silchar by the rescue team to ferry the people to safety. The team also brought food and water for the stranded people, as well as many of them were facing a shortage of food and water due to prolonged flood situation. And apart from the Mizos, the team also rescued 10 locals and also evacuated them to safer places. And shifting focus to Manipur now, indiscriminate firing by unknown gunmen killed one non-local laborer and left another injured last evening in the state's Kaching district. That's right, viewers. The two non-local laborers from Bihar were staying at a rented house owned by one Naurem Chauba in Kaching Wairi, Laishangthem Lekai, and were engaged in masonry. As per reports, unknown gunmen entered the rented house at around 7 p.m. in the evening and opened fire. The deceased, identified as Madal Yadhav, died on the spot, while the injured, identified as Bharat Jadhu, was shifted to Jeevan Hospital by locals of Kaching Wairi. Meanwhile, police team from Kaching police station arrived at the spot and carried out a preliminary investigations. All right, on to Meghalaya now. Ramrai Jiringam MDC Bajop Pingrob, along with the residents of Langpi sector in West Khasi Hills district, met Deputy Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Preston Tinsong, on Thursday and stated that he wants villages under his constituency to remain with Meghalaya. It may be mentioned here that Langpi sector will come under the second phase of chief ministerial level discussions between Assam and Meghalaya to settle the border dispute between the two states. After meeting, the Deputy Chief Minister, MDC Bajo Pingrop, said that 39 villages have signed a joint memorandum where they stated that they want to remain in Meghalaya. Pingrove said that a settlement of Langpi sector will become complicated, but with 95% of the residents wanting to be in Meghalaya, it won't be hard for the regional committees to take a call. On the remaining 5%, the MDC said that the HIMA will do its homework on how to convince them to also be with Meghalaya.
My main purpose is, as we see the second round of talks for the boundary settlement will take place soon. So basically, me as the MDC of Ramrai Jerngam, where the Langpi sector falls under this, under my constituency. So my duty is that, all these villages which are under my constituency should be in Meghalaya, and 39 villages have signed a joint memorandum where they have stated that they support to be in Meghalaya, and that will be very easy for the regional committees to decide when it comes to where they will go for the field visits. So once the field visits take place and majority of the residents, 95% I can say as of now, have taken their decision with one voice that they want to be in Meghalaya. With 95% of the residents of that particular sector decided that they want to be in Meghalaya, I think it won't be hard for the regional committees to take a call, because they have to go with the majority. And yes, with the 5% also, we are working on it. The HIMA will do its homework, how to convince them also that they support when the regional committees come and visit in the field, that they will support Meghalaya.
And with that, we've come to the end of our news bulletin. Stay tuned to Northeast Live for more news and updates. Thank you for watching. Northeast Live, the most viewed news channel in the region. On YouTube, unmatched coverage. Oh, bah.
অপূর্ব ভ্যারাইটি অপূর্ব মূল্য ডাউনলোড মিশো
মই ব্যৱহাৰ কৰো আটাইতকৈ সবল আৰু সতেজ সিমেন্ট সূৰ্যা সিমেন্ট অটুট ঘৰ অটুট অসম
Evening Prime, the prime time news at 7. Now, in a whole new look. Only on Northeast Live. Your station, your voice. Northeast Live, the most Hello and welcome to Afternoon Headlines. I'm Ronak and we start the bulletin with the top focus this afternoon. NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu, who arrived in the national capital from Bhubaneswar, will file her nomination papers today in the presence of top BJP leaders. Her nomination papers are being prepared at the Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi's residence, sources said. Prime Minister Modi, senior ministers Rajnath Singh and Amit Shah, and BJP National President JP Nadda will be amongst her proposers. Union ministers and senior BJP leaders have signed on as proposers and seconders at Joshi's residence. Several Delhi BJP leaders, including State President Adesh Gupta, party MPs Manoj Tiwari and Ramesh Bidhuri, leader of opposition in the Delhi Assembly, welcomed Murmu at the airport. Murmu, who is staying put at the Odisha Bhavan, is likely to call on Prime Minister Modi today. And to make the nomination filing a grand event, the BJP has invited its allies as well as the Biju Janata Dal, which has announced its support for Murmu, to attend the nomination filing. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday praised NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu for her understanding of the problems on ground and dubbed her vision for India's development as extraordinary. The Prime Minister made the remarks after he met Murmu in New Delhi, and after Prime Minister Modi, Union Home Minister Amit Shah also met the NDA presidential candidate. Meanwhile, Draupadi Murmu has arrived at the Parliament House where she would be filing her nomination papers. Meanwhile, leaders of the BJP and other allied NDA partners would be present when Draupadi Murmu files her nomination papers. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma, who is also in New Delhi, would also be present during the filing of nomination papers.
ভাৰতৰ ৰাষ্ট্ৰপতি পদৰ প্ৰাৰ্থী হিচাপে NDA শ্ৰীমতী দ্ৰৌপদী মুৰ্মুক আগবঢ়াইছে। প্ৰধানমন্ত্ৰী ডাঙৰীয়াৰ মাৰ্গদৰ্শনত সকলোৱে দ্ৰৌপদী মুৰ্মু ডাঙৰীয়ানীৰ বিজয়ৰ বাবে আগ্ৰহ কৰিছে। 10:30 বজাত তেখেতৰ মনোনয়ন পত্ৰ আমি সকলোৱে লগ হৈ দাখিল কৰিম।
And if that was not all, Union Ayush Minister and former Assam Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal is also set to accompany Draupadi Murmu when she files her nomination papers today.
पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड के सदस्यों को विशेष रूप से धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। उन्होंने एक ट्राइबल महिला को देश के राष्ट्रपति पद के लिए सुनाया है, तो इतना बड़ा उन्होंने सम्मान देश के ट्राइबल लोगों को दिया है, इससे बड़ा क्या हो सकता है। इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि सारे देश की जनता आज इस विषय पर बहुत खुश है। सभी जितना भी हमारे लोग हैं सब बड़े आनंदित होके समर्थन करेंगे, कर रहा है, करेंगे, निश्चित है।
Well, I'm extremely thrilled, and it's something that has been a part of our kind of ideology, and it's something that my late father, Mr. P.S. Sangma, had also contested the presidential election, and he had once said that one day there will be a tribal person who will become the president of this country, and I think it's kind of a dream come true for all of us. So I'm very happy and excited, and we have full support for the candidature. I think this is it's not about politics anymore. It's really about sending the message of inclusiveness and letting a strong message go to the whole country that when it comes to important issues like these, and especially when it comes to a candidate like this, that we are all united and one.
All right, on to the big update from the Maharashtra political crisis. A Shiv Sena worker has been arrested outside Hotel Radisson Blu in Guwahati. Sanjay Bhosle, who is in Guwahati, is from the pro-Uddhav Thackeray camp. Bhosle is being described as an emissary sent by Uddhav Thackeray and was arrested by Guwahati police outside Hotel Radisson Blu, where the rebel MLAs are camping out. Bhosle was standing with a placard outside the hotel premises calling out the rebels to reconcile with Uddhav Thackeray when he was arrested. Sanjay Bhosle has come all the way from Maharashtra to Guwahati and was standing outside the hotel holding a placard and appealing to the rebel Sena MLAs to return and reconcile with Uddhav Thackeray. All right, let's listen in now to what the police have to say about the arrest of Sanjay Bhosle.
अभी तक पता नहीं चला, कोई लोग कौन बता दिया पता नहीं है, लेकिन उनको अभी थाना में हम लोग भेज दिए हैं वहाँ प्यार से बातचीत होगा, कहाँ से आया था, क्यों आया था, किस लिए आया था, तो पता चलेगा।
किस वजह से उनको डिटेन किया गया है?
अरे वो कुछ बात दे रहा है, कुछ पेपर लेके आया था, वो अभी तो ये होगा। कोई आदमी को एक बार पूछताछ करने के लिए तो थाना में लेना पड़ेगा तो भाई।
वो तो कोई इलीगल एक्टिविटीज में कोई।
अरे सुनिए, यहाँ आप तो जानते हैं कि ये कितना सेंसिटिव एरिया है। आप लोग दूर दूर से आया है, सारा इंडिया से आया है, क्यों आया है? तो ये एरिया तो काफी सेंसिटिव है ना। आप लोग का सिक्योरिटी है, लोगों का सिक्योरिटी है, सब लोग के लिए पुलिस ये फोर्स इधर में दिया गया है। तो दैट इज वाई हम लोग कोई आदमी लोग कोई थोड़ा सा इधर उधर जो कार्रवाई होता है देखते हैं, सस्पेक्ट होता है, इसीलिए उसको हम लोग अरे डिटेन किया है। कौन अरेस्ट किया है? अरे भाई थाना में लेके जाके उनको पूछना पड़ेगा ना भाई, आप कहाँ से आए हैं, क्यों आए हैं?
लेकिन उनका कहना है कि वो शिव सैनिक है और वो सातारा
वो तो
डिस्ट्रिक्ट से आए हैं।
उनका कहना है। अरे आ भी सकते हैं, कौन मना कर सकते हैं? इंडिया में आपको कोई असम में आने के लिए अरे मना किए थे क्या? नहीं किए तो क्या बात है कि ये तो जो आदमी आया है उनको पकड़ा गया, उसको थाना में हम लोग लेके गए, पानी उन्नी पिला के प्यार से पूछेंगे आप लोग क्यों आए हैं, क्या बात था, क्या नहीं था। उसके बाद जो कार्रवाई होना है एज पर लॉ दैट विल बी डन।
And meanwhile, our Chief of Bureau, Arindam Das, caught up with Sanjay Bhosle a short while before he was arrested. Let's take a look at this exclusive conversation with Sanjay Bhosle just moments before his arrest. Take a look.
आज सुबह होटल रेडिसन ब्लू के बाहर एक अलग ही नज़ारा देखने को मिल रहा है। एक शिव सैनिक आए हैं सतारा जिले से, यहाँ से करीबन 3000 किलोमीटर दूर से आए हैं। पहले आप अपना परिचय दीजिए और यहाँ पे क्यों आए हैं हमको बताइए।
मैं सातारा जिला से आया हूँ। सातारा जिला का मैं शिवसेना का उप जिला प्रमुख हूँ। एकनाथ शिंदे साहब जो यहाँ ठहरे हैं वो सातारा जिला के सुपुत्र है और मैं उसी जिले का सुपुत्र हूँ। मैं यहाँ सिर्फ ये बताने आया हूँ, उनको ये कहने आया हूँ कि आप वापस चलो। माननीय शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे के जो अंतिम शब्द थे कि मेरे उद्धव और आदित्य को साथ दो, तो वो शब्द स्मरण करके आप वापस आओ।
तो आपको क्या लगता है क्या हो रहा है अंदर?
अंदर क्या हो रहा है, सत्ता का सारीपाट चल रहा है, मेरे को कुछ मालूम नहीं है। मैं सत्ता के लिए कुछ बोलने वाला नहीं हूँ। मैं सिर्फ कहने आया हूँ कि वो कट्टर शिव सैनिक है, मैं कट्टर शिव सैनिक हूँ। वो बाला साहब ठाकरे के भक्त है, माननीय दिगे साहब के भक्त है। मैं भी बाला साहब ठाकरे और माननीय दिगे साहब का भक्त हूँ। उनको शिव सैनिकों ने अपना पसीना बहाकर बहुत बड़ा किया है। हमारे शिव सैनिकों की ताकत पर वो बड़े हुए हैं। वो शिव सैनिकों के साथ रहे, यही मेरी आखिरी ख्वाहिश है।
तो आपका नाम बताइए और आप अकेले आए हैं?
देखिए, आसाम महाराष्ट्र से बहुत दूर है और शिव सैनिक बहुत गरीब रहता है। शिव सैनिक का जो एकनाथ शिंदे यहाँ आए, जो जितने भी यहाँ एमएलए, वो पूरे गरीबी से यहाँ एमएलए बने। इनके पास भी कुछ नहीं था, लेकिन बाला साहब ठाकरे की ताकत, आशीर्वाद, दिगे साहब के ताकत, आशीर्वाद से ये बने हैं। ऐसे ही ये हमारे जैसे ही पहले थे। मैं इतना ही कहने आया हूँ, आपको हम ताकत दे रहे हैं, आप शिवसेना में चलो।
एकनाथ शिंदे तो बोल रहे हैं कि उनको ये स्टेप इसलिए लेना पड़ा क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं शिवसेना के जो प्रमुख है उद्धव ठाकरे, वो अपने आइडियोलॉजी से भटक गए, जो हिंदुत्व के आइडियोलॉजी है, क्योंकि वो एनसीपी और कांग्रेस के साथ हो गए हैं जो हिंदुत्व को नहीं प्रमोट करते।
पूरे देश को मालूम है हिंदू हृदय सम्राट शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे का हिंदुत्व। जब बाबरी का ढांचा गिरा था तब भी शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे ने कहा था, जो अगर ये मेरे शिव सैनिकों ने गिराया होगा तो वो मुझे उनसे गर्व है। तभी हम जैसे शिव सैनिक, एकनाथ भाई जैसे शिव सैनिक ही अयोध्या गए थे और जाकर वहां ढांचा गिराया था। और उनका बेटा उद्धव ठाकरे, शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे का बेटा उद्धव ठाकरे इतना बाला साहब ठाकरे की प्रताड़ना कर नहीं सकता, सबको मालूम है। लेकिन सत्ता की सारी पार्ट में ये चल रहा है, सत्ता के सारी पार्ट में बहकाकर इनको यहाँ लाया गया है और एक गलत शब्द बयान कर रहे हैं। मैं इतना ही कहने वाला हूँ, ये कुछ भी हो, आप कोई बनो, कोई मुख्यमंत्री बनो, कुछ बनो, लेकिन आप मातोश्री चलो। बाला साहब ठाकरे के अंतिम शब्द थे कि मेरे उद्धव आदित्य को साथ दो, आप उद्धव आदित्य को साथ दो।
तो आपको क्या लगता है, आपको अंदर जाने देंगे? आपको ये जो आप मैसेज लेके आए हैं उनके पास पहुंचने देंगे? और कोई शिव सैनिक और आ रहे हैं क्या यहाँ पे?
देखिए, मैं छोटा शिव सैनिक हूँ, लेकिन मैं शिवसेना के विचार उनके पास लाया हूँ, इतनी दूर आया हूँ, शिव सैनिक की ताकत से, उनके खर्चे से आया हूँ। मेरा इतना ही कहना है, मुझे अंदर जाने दे ना जाने दे। आपके मीडिया के माध्यम से तो उनको समझ गया है कि मेरे को क्या बोलने का है। मैंने बाला साहब ठाकरे के शब्द को यहाँ दोहराया है, वो स्मरण करे और वापस चले।
एकनाथ शिंदे तो अभी दावे कर रहे हैं कि शिवसेना तो अब उनके पार्टी है क्योंकि उनके पास ज्यादा शिव सैनिक है।
देखिए, सत्ता में किसके पास एमएलए है, किसके पास नहीं है, इसका मेरे को कुछ लेना देना नहीं, वो वापस आए।
और भी आएंगे शिव सैनिक?
आएंगे। अभी ऐसा चला तो शिव सैनिक कहा भी जा सकते हैं।
कितने आएंगे?
उसकी उसकी संख्या नहीं बता सकते, लेकिन शिव सैनिक कहाँ भी घुस सकते, कहाँ भी जा सकते।
तो अभी आप क्या करेंगे यहाँ पे?
मैं तो यहाँ रुकने वाला हूँ, जब तक यहाँ का जो सोच और मालूम नहीं होता तब तक मैं यहाँ रुकने वाला हूँ।
तो ये थे संजय भोसले, उप जिला सभापति सतारा जिले से शिवसेना के, जो यहाँ पे होटल रेडिसन ब्लू के बाहर खड़े हैं और ये एक ही मैसेज लेके आए हैं कि एकनाथ शिंदे और उनके साथ जो भी बागी एमएलए है उनके साथ महाराष्ट्र वापस जाए और उद्धव ठाकरे से बातचीत करे।
So there you have it, viewers. The political crisis in Maharashtra continues to grow. Trouble continues to mount for the Aghadi government as more MLAs join the Eknath Shinde camp in Guwahati. Last night, 3 more Shiv Sena MLAs and 2 independent MLAs reached Guwahati and joined the Shinde camp in Hotel Radisson Blu. All right, we have some breaking news coming in at this point in time. NDA presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu has arrived to file her nomination papers. Murmu arrived along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other top BJP leaders. Yes, viewers, as you can clearly see on your screens, a big breaking news coming in. And of course, there you see Draupadi Murmu being flanked on both sides by, of course, none other than Prime Minister Narendra Modi, BJP National President JP Nadda. And on the other side, we have the Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, as well as other top BJP leaders present. And of course, Union Home Minister Amit Shah also there, seated alongside Draupadi Murmu. And viewers, these are live visuals we are receiving from inside the Parliament House. Yes, indeed, viewers, these are live visuals as Draupadi Murmu, the NDA candidate for the forthcoming presidential elections, is all set to file her nomination papers in moments from now. As you can clearly see, these are live visuals that we have accessed from inside the parliament, and Draupadi Murmu, of course, being accompanied by the top brass of the BJP, including, of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself, the BJP National President JP Nadda, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, as well as other top brass of the BJP. Yes, indeed, viewers, a very big moment for the NDA alliance as their presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu is in the process of filing her nomination papers for the all-important presidential elections. And it is very significant here, viewers, as of course, as I mentioned, Draupadi Murmu, if elected, will become the country's first ever tribal woman president of India. And that this is, of course, the first time that a tribal woman candidate has been named by the NDA or any other party for the matter as a presidential candidate. And of course, she will become, if elected, the first tribal woman president of the country and only the second woman president after, of course, Pratibha Patil. And of course, Draupadi Murmu has been hailed by all the leaders of the BJP, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi being one of the first ones to hail Draupadi Murmu as someone who understands the situation on the ground. She has a good understanding of the ground situation and has also hailed her vision for India's development as extraordinary. These were words by none other than the Prime Minister himself, who has time and again reiterated that Draupadi Murmu will make a very good president for the country. And of course, behind him also, we can see quite a few leaders of the BJP. There on the far right, we can also see the Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma seated, as well as we also have the former Chief Minister of Assam and Union Ayush Minister Sarbananda Sonowal. And on the left of your screens, just moments ago, we also saw the Meghalaya Chief Minister Conrad Sangma also present to accompany Draupadi Murmu as she files her nomination papers. A big moment indeed for the NDA alliance as their presidential candidate, a historic occasion, in fact, if I may say so myself, as the first ever tribal woman presidential candidate has been put forth for the upcoming presidential elections. And of course, prominent BJP chief ministers are also present there, as you can clearly see, which of course also includes the Nagaland Chief Minister Nephew Rio, the Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, and then right behind the Prime Minister Modi, clearly we can also see the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath also seated. Yes, indeed, viewers, continuous live visuals that we are receiving from inside the Parliament House as a very, very, very important occasion this for the NDA alliance, as Prime Minister Modi himself, as well as the top brass of the Bharatiya Janata Party, are seated and are accompanying Draupadi Murmu, the NDA presidential candidate, as she files her nomination papers in the Parliament House today. And also, let me remind our viewers at this point, the NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu had arrived in the national capital earlier from Bhubaneswar and is filing her nomination papers today in the presence of the top brass of the BJP. And earlier in the day, her nomination papers were prepared at the Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi's residence in the national capital. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, senior ministers Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, and BJP National President JP Nadda are clearly, as you can see, accompanying Draupadi Murmu as she files her nomination papers. And besides several Delhi BJP leaders, including State President Adesh Gupta, party MPs Manoj Tiwari, and Ramesh Biduri, the leader of opposition in the Delhi Assembly, welcomed Draupadi Murmu at the Delhi airport earlier in the day. Murmu, who was staying at the Odisha Bhavan, also is being accompanied by the top brass of the BJP as well as its alliance partners. And of course, to make the nomination event an even more grand event, the BJP has invited its allies as well as the Biju Janata Dal, which has announced its support for Draupadi Murmu to attend this nomination filing. And earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had hailed the NDA presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu for what he called her understanding of the problems on the ground and dubbed her vision for India's development as extraordinary. These were the very words used by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to describe the vision that Draupadi Murmu has for the future and the development of India, and termed it rather as extraordinary. And after having met the Prime Minister in New Delhi yesterday, the presidential candidate of the NDA, Draupadi Murmu, also called on Union Home Minister Amit Shah as well as the other top leaders of the central government. All the top brass of the BJP are present here alongside Draupadi Murmu as she files her nomination papers at the parliament. Viewers, clearly on your screens, all the who's who, the top brass of the Bharatiya Janata Party, as well as prominent chief ministers of the BJP ruled states, all are present here at the Parliament House in the national capital alongside Draupadi Murmu. Indeed, a massive show of strength here, viewers, by the NDA as Draupadi Murmu is making history at the Parliament House, the first tribal woman candidate for the presidential elections, viewers. So yes, viewers, lots of activity going on at the Parliament House. As you can clearly see now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the process of signing on as a proposer of Draupadi Murmu, the NDA presidential candidate. Yes, viewers, one by one now, all the top leaders of the BJP and its allies signing on as seconders and proposers of the presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu. It seems as though the nomination filing process has been finally completed, viewers. A standing ovation given to Draupadi Murmu, the NDA presidential candidate, as she has completed the nomination filing for the upcoming presidential elections. Indeed, a historical day for the NDA alliance, viewers. A historic day as the first ever woman tribal candidate for the ensuing presidential polls has filed her nomination papers in New Delhi today. Yes, viewers, indeed, all the top leaders are now filing out of the Parliament House. And of course, a round of ovation as the nomination filing procedure has been successfully completed for NDA's presidential candidate, Draupadi Murmu. Yes, viewers, as you can clearly see now, the Draupadi Murmu acknowledging the appreciation by all her peers, the BJP leaders and the NDA partners as she makes her way out from the Parliament House after having completed the filing of nomination for the presidential elections. So indeed, viewers, now after having made her way out from the returning officer's office, now presidential candidate for the NDA, Draupadi Murmu, acknowledging all of the supporters that have gathered for her nomination filing papers today. And of course, let me also at this moment brief our viewers a little bit about who actually is Draupadi Murmu, the first ever tribal woman presidential candidate that has been chosen. So Draupadi Murmu is a tribal leader hailing from Orissa, and of course she was named earlier as the ruling NDA's candidate for the presidential elections. And on to another big story now. The Supreme Court today dismissed a petition filed by deceased Congress leader Ehsan Jaffrey's widow Zakia Jaffrey, which questioned the clean chit given by the Special Investigation Team to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and 63 others for their alleged role in the 2002 Gujarat riots violence. Ehsan Jaffrey was killed during the violence at Gulbarg Society in Ahmedabad on the 28th of February 2002. The Apex Court had reserved its order on a petition filed by Zakia Jaffrey against the Gujarat High Court's order, rejecting her plea against the SIT decision, giving a clean chit to Prime Minister Modi, who was the Gujarat Chief Minister back in 2002, and 63 others back in December last year. Senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi, who appeared for the SIT, told the bench that the Supreme Court should endorse the trial court and the Gujarat High Court's decision on Jaffrey's plea. Otherwise, it will result in an endless exercise that could go on for days because of some motives of social activist Teesta Setalwal, who is petitioner number 2 in the petition. Kapil Sibal, meanwhile, who appeared for Zakia Jaffrey, told the top court that the SIT did not conduct an investigation, but did a collaborative exercise, and its probe was fraught with omissions to protect conspirators. He also said that the officials of SIT as well as the police were handsomely rewarded. The court-appointed SIT had submitted its closure report in February 2012, a decade after the riots, and exonerated Prime Minister Modi as well as 63 others, citing no prosecutable evidence. And with that, we've come to the end of our news bulletin. Stay tuned to Northeast Live for more news and updates. Thank you for watching. Northeast Live, the most viewed news channel in the region. On YouTube, unmatched coverage.
অভূতপূর্ব ভ্যারাইটি, অপূর্ব মূল্য। ডাউনলোড মিশো।
মই ব্যৱহাৰ কৰোঁ আটাইতকৈ সবল আৰু সতেজ চিমেণ্ট সূৰ্য চিমেণ্ট। সূৰ্য চিমেণ্ট অটুট ঘৰ অটুট অসম।
Evening Prime, the prime time news at 7. Now, in a whole new look. Only on Northeast Live. Your station, your voice. Northeast Live, the most viewed news channel in the region. On